Next, we'll create a campaign. You can access the campaigns for this mailing list here in this section or by going to the Campaigns Management page. In this Campaigns page, you can manage any campaigns for any mailing list in this organization. First, we'll give the campaign a name and choose a mailing list to send it to. You'll see when we get to this campaign page that all of these checkboxes are grayed and we don't have the option to send this campaign. That's because you can only send a campaign after all 3 checkboxes have been filled in. First, we'll create the content. Here we'll build the email that we're going to send out. You can choose the format and then either build your content in the WYSIWYG editor. You can drop your HTML directly in here if you create it using another application, or you can bring in the content from a URL or a file that you upload. As you're building your campaign, you'll probably want to insert your custom fields. If you have fields like their first name or their full name, you can insert those custom fields by clicking on the Custom Field button. Any of the green custom fields are the ones that you created on your mailing list. Any of the gray ones are the pre-built custom fields that come by default in GreenArrow Studio. When I click the custom field, it inserts it at the cursor. The naming convention for our custom fields uses a double % enclosure and is case sensitive and converts any spaces to underscores. Once you're happy with your HTML email, if you'd like to convert it directly to text, you can click this button. GreenArrow puts the links in parentheses next to the text. It does a pretty good job of converting, but you'll want to take a look through the text version to make sure it looks exactly the way that you'd like it to. If you'd like to use split testing on this campaign, you can enable that here. This brings up the tab bar and allows you to add multiple contents. You can switch between contents here, and you can customize the subject, the format, and any of the content. With the content done, you can see that this checkbox is filled in now. If you'd like to take a look at your content, you can see the 2 contents side by side, their subjects and the formats, and a rendering of the HTML and text versions of the email. Next, I'll show you the segmentation. Back on the mailing list page, you may remember where we had the option to create a saved segment. If you create a saved segment, you can select it here from a drop-down. Since we don't have one, I'll create one here. The segmentation criteria allows you to target specific portions of your list. You can add additional criteria, and you can see all of the different options we have to segment. You can segment based on the details, so when they subscribed, what their email address or the domain that they belong to, when they subscribed, their proximity to a US zip code, or their activity when they clicked or opened. Or you can segment based off of your own custom fields. In this example, we'll look for our engaged subscribers. We'll look for anyone who's opened in the last 10 days and who clicked in the last 10 days. Now it's important to note that all of these criteria must be true. If you'd like to make it so that only some of them must be true, you can create a grouping. If you already have the fields that you'd like to use, you can just drag them into the grouping. So now, this criteria will target any active subscribers who have either clicked or opened in the last 10 days. And finally, we have to edit the delivery settings. You'll remember from when we created the mailing list, we created the defaults for this. So these options should look pretty familiar. If you'd like to customize any for this campaign specifically, you can make those changes here, and it won't impact the mailing list. It'll only impact this campaign. Now that we have all 3 checkboxes filled in, we can go ahead and send this campaign. Again, we have the option to send it at a time in the future or to begin sending immediately. And we're given one last chance to review the campaign before we send it out. This gives you a count of how many recipients will get this campaign, and you can scroll through again and review any of the other settings. You can see that this campaign is scheduled, and it's actually already sent out the first 100 emails. You may remember that we use the automatic split test winner selection. So right now, we're waiting for that split test winner. It sent out 10% of the list, so 50 people received content A and 50 received content B, and now we're just waiting for the winner. I changed it so that we were only going to wait 1 minute. And as this page automatically refreshes, you'll see this timer count down. We have just less than a minute before it decides who won. While that's running though, we can look at the jobs page and we can also see the current status of this campaign. The minute passed and we had a winner and the campaign is already finished sending. The campaign now shows up in the finished campaigns list.